What's going on, my Monday Night Live people? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday. Hopefully people didn't eat too much. I hope everyone got some rest, relaxation in, all of that good stuff. But we are back to life, back to reality. This beautiful Monday. Um, Unfortunately, my partner in all things community, Miss Shavannah of the Hood Talks podcast. I'm missing her tonight. So sending her all the positive and good vibes so that she gets to feeling better real soon. But even though she won't be joining us, I am so excited, y'all. Y'all have no idea how excited I am. And I ain't being fake, I'm being real. How excited I am. We have our first official elected official on our Monday Night Live show tonight. Y'all ready for? I'm ready for. So without further ado, joining us this evening is the Alderwoman representing the 26th ward of the beautiful city of St. Louis. We have Alderwoman Alderwoman Clark-Hubbard.
Good evening, sis. I didn't know I was first. Oh, girl, don't you give me amped up. Come on. I didn't know I was first, sis. What an honor. Thank you.
You are like for real. Because we had to do it. We had to do it right. We had to do it big. And timing is everything. And so, y'all, so before we get into the conversation, though, real quick, Alderwoman, please, if you could tell people who you are, the 26th ward, really let us know what neighborhoods that you represent. So please tell the people.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for this platform. Again, it's an honor to be your first elected official on here and all this great work that you and Shavannah continue to do. Prayers going out to Shavannah. Love, all kind of air hugs and kisses, sis. You know that we love you. We want you to get better soon. So we glad you are taking the steps to take care of yourself because we need you. Again, my name is Alderwoman Clark-Hubbard. I serve as Alderwoman here in the city of St. Louis. I like to call myself Alder Lady. And at the former 26th ward, which is now the 10th ward. And I'm absolutely going to take the liberty to talk about the 10th ward today. Why? Because today was the first day of filing in the city of St. Louis. So we are officially filed and running for these new wards here in the city of St. Louis, so which I will be humbly hoping to continue to serve as Alderwoman in now the 10th ward in the city of St. Louis. The former 26th ward was made up of the Bolivar Place, Skinker de Bolivar, West End Visitation Park, and Academy Sherman Park. The new 10th ward is made up of Whiteout Skinker, de Bolivar Place, Skinker de Bolivar, West End Visitation Park, Academy Sherman Park, Lewis Place, and Fountain Park neighborhoods, and the entire Forest Park footprint as well. It's going to be an amazing ward. I think that it's going to be what'll be called can be dubbed the new central, the new heart of the city of St. Louis, especially how it absolutely breaks and crushes, shatters the Delmar Divide with this ward and with the demographic that is made up of. So I'm excited. I brag. I was the first. Yeah, I got my butt up since I was the first one filed this morning, and I was excited about that. And I did learn later on this evening that I was the only person that filed for the 10th ward. Filing is not closed. So, that doesn't mean that nobody else will file against me, but what it is a good sign for me that people believe in me, that people want to see us continue this work that we've been talking about doing. I kicked my campaign off in March, right? So we've been running for a while, not to mention it's a lottery, and I have to throw this in. So guess what number I picked in the lottery? And it wasn't 10, because, I'm big on 10.
Right, I was going to say 10.
Now, if it would have been 10, I probably would have broke news with that. I would have had news station. No, but it wasn't 10, but it was close enough. It was 17, and that's my birthday. So I thought that was a sign too. Out of 64 numbers, I think Commissioner Stoff said out of 1 to 64 you could choose. I chose 17 out of the pile, and that's my birthday. So I thought that was a good sign as well.
Yes. So and thank you for that again for people that are joining us. If you weren't aware, yes, the wards are new. We're gonna have new wards officially in the spring. So thank
Mhm.
you, Alderwoman Clark-Hubbard.
Wait a
For
minute, sis. We got, because I know you big on information being right.
yes.
We officially have 14 wards in the city of St. Louis, right? We officially, that's why when people got their voter registration cards in November, it said their new wards and new precincts. What we as sitting outer people have is governance over the old boundaries until we all run the entire board, and the president again will be running in March, on March 7th for the primary and April 4th for the general, for re-election and for election for these new 14 wards.
Yes. Message. So we gonna get into this conversation. So real quick though, we have some folks that are watching us. Shout out to y'all for checking us out. Please, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, make sure you put them in the chat. Feel free to do that. I will share them during the show. If you have any questions, again, I got to shout out Alderwoman Clark-Hubbard because she is an open book for real. Like she keeps it a buck. And she is always open to answering folks' questions, and again, making sure people have the right information. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate, throw them in the chat. We'll definitely get to them. So please feel free, put your questions in there. However, we're gonna get into really why I had introduced her, and I really wanted her, invited her to be on our show, because what we talk about on Monday Night Live, we talk about policy. We talk about things that are going on legislatively, and to shine a light on those issues. And so when you introduce Board Bill 116, I'm like, yo, we're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to talk about this. So real quick, I'm gonna provide like a super high level overview of the bill, and then I'm gonna turn it over to you because I got a couple questions, and I'm sure folks listening, they'll have some questions too. So Board Bill 116 is requesting a total of about $52 million in ARPA coins. And obviously people can find the information. I'll be sure to put the link somewhere in here for people to check out that Board Bill 116 and see kind of what some of these appropriations are giving. Because it's quite a few of them, but there's one that stands out. So of the $52 million of ARPA funding being requested, the largest chunk of that, $19.8 million, will go to the Department of Human Services. And out of that chunk, $5 million to a guaranteed basic income program situation. And I think that's really like what people have really zeroed in on, because this is different, right? So real quick, for the people that want to know, what does guaranteed basic income, like, what does that really mean?
Well, we could just let's take it back to the DCA that we did with the first round of ARPA funds, the direct cash assistance that we gave, the $500 one-time payment to eligible constituents here in the city of St. Louis. We looked at the data, we looked at the numbers, we saw that that worked. No, $500 doesn't change somebody's life, but $500 absolutely made a difference. And we have, again, the data to prove it, because people then reported how they spent the money. And people spent it on everything from bills to food to gas to extracurricular for their children, catching up on payments, different things they did that again showed the need and that it met a need. So, hey, guaranteed basic income now takes that up a notch. Guaranteed basic income, which has been done across in some other cities, it would have that, imagine that payment, but for a year or a 2-year time span. So imagine just what you did with that $500, but now you can guarantee and depend on it in your budget, in your monthly budget for your household. Now for either we're kind of still going over the numbers, so I'm not going to start spewing them out because I don't want people to get misinformation. You know how I'm big on that. But for example, it could be $500 for 2 years or $1,000 for 1 year. We're just looking at different numbers and seeing how is the best maximize the impact for the city of St. Louis as we compare it to how it has absolutely made an impact on other cities around the country.
Yeah, thank you for that. So again, I know you said that y'all are still kind of crunching some numbers to really figure out what what that dollar amount might look like. So again, people out there, they working on that. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so I real quick, I'm gonna play that person. I'm gonna be that person uh that says this. Okay, alder lady.
Mhm.
I hear you. I hear you on that, but you know, why we always giving people money? You know, how is this really going to improve our city? You know, so
Mhm.
I that's my question, because that's, I feel like that might be some of the pushback received. So
Yeah.
how how would you answer that?
Well, I absolutely feel that I have been feeling that pushback. Well, here's what I'll say about this particular pot of money, if nothing else. This is the people's money. So in that sense, it's giving it back to the people that, hey, may I add, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't have got this amount of money. We wouldn't have gotten this money in the first place. Okay, so there's a need that was exacerbated with the pandemic, and that's where these ARPA funds came from. And we were eligible for so much because of the disinvestment and the poverty levels in our communities. Um, this piece of this money, again, seeing how it works, and I have to give credit where it's due to our mayor, Tashara Jones, who is a member of this. I mean, there's a coalition of mayors across the country that have done this with these ARPA funds. Yeah, they've been talking about this. This idea goes back to Martin Luther King. This idea goes back to the poor people's, I'm blocking on them, but the poor people's campaign and things of that nature, when they were like, hey, this is what we need to do. This gives somebody a threshold that people always try to throw in people's faces that they clearly do not have. The bootstraps that people clearly do not have, that they say they need people to pull themselves up from. So I want people to get, for me, I would want people to get out of that mindset of we're just giving stuff away and giving stuff away, because in that case it's like you're to me judging and policing that kind of, this kind of help and this kind of resources for a community that, one, needs it, and two, how can you assume that they're going to not do the right thing with it? When somebody says something like that, to me it seems like they're judging, and they're making it seem like, what do they need it for? They're just going to do this and that. That's not your responsibility. You can boil that down to when you give money to somebody on the corner, sis. Do you sit there and think, well, what is this person going to do with that money? Or do you give it to them out your heart? Then that's your responsibility, and that's what you carry with you. If they go out and do something wrong with it, or not be responsible with it, then that's the case. But the one thing about this program, what I'm learning is that it's tracked, and with it being tracked, and so that we're seeing, the impact and the goals and the people that are meeting in their families, the day-to-day in their families, with this kind of money and this kind of guaranteed basic income added to their monthly budget.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate your response,
Mhm.
especially, and we talked about this, those people, right?
Mhm.
If it wasn't for those people, we wouldn't
That's
have
it.
these opportunities, right?
That's it.
And we have to support those most vulnerable. So
Mhm.
I absolutely hear you on that.
Mhm.
So I guess my next question, okay, so we kind of talked about this idea of guaranteed basic income, which ain't new, y'all. This ain't
Right.
nothing new.
I know.
So again, it is an elevation of those what everybody refer to as them $500 checks. So elevation of that. So my question is, like, what's the process? So I know this bill, it has been introduced already. So like,
Mhm.
what's next? Like, can you break down kind of like what happens with this bill?
Mhm.
And also how can we, and I've gotten some people hitting me up,
Go
uh
right.
wanting making some suggestions on some of the appropriations in the bill. So, what's next with the bill, and
Mhm.
also how can residents either weigh in on providing some input and also support it? Like, do we have opportunities to do that?
Absolutely. You know me, the next step is my favorite step in legislation process in the city of St. Louis, and that's the hearing. That's the committee hearing. It's been assigned to the HUD's committee. In prior reports or prior speaking engagements, you probably heard me say that it was going to be on this Thursday's HUD committee meeting, but we had to reschedule that due to the untimely death of Baba Thadi, which is Clerk Kennedy's twin brother. So, in honor of him and out of respect for their family, we have moved our full board meeting this week to Thursday, and then we moved the HUD's meeting to next Thursday, December the 8th. So let's talk about that. What a HUD's hearing committee meeting looks like is you will hear a presentation from myself along with directors and community leaders and community department heads throughout the entire Board Bill 16, which if you want, we can talk about that more outside of guaranteed basic income. But there are other departments we're bringing in to make sure that they speak on if any of the, not only the committee members, but our constituencies, our if other elected officials might have questions, they'll be there on hand and ready. And you can testify as a constituent, not just as an elected official, as a constituent. You can sign up to testify at any of our committee hearings within 24 hours before we send you send your name, your email address, contact information to our clerk, and then they in turn send you a link for STLTV to sign on and give your testimony, or you can send and submit written testimony.
Alderwoman, can you repeat that one more time? I just want the people like all the way in the back and on the side to hear that. So can you say that one more time?
I'll say it again because, again, it's my favorite part. This is the time not only for constituencies to weigh in on the legislative process, on the piece of legislation, on the policy, on the allocations. And this is whether you're in favor or not in favor. Of course, I'm going to advocate and want you to be in favor. And if I can talk to you prior to you coming on there, I will. And I'm an open, like my sister said, I'm always an open book. But this is the opportunity for you all to come in. Not only you can sign up to do spoken testimony, but you can also submit written testimony if you're not comfortable. Now, we are still in a virtual platform with this, so it's on a Zoom link. But if you call in, you won't be able to, without your video, they're not going to let you present. So all of these, or now that we have this week, we can lead up to that. So, hey, if you have written testimony or if you want to speak, and maybe we can even set up satellite areas, I'm always game for making sure people have zero barriers in wanting to weigh in and participate in this policy process. The good thing about the hearing also is that you may, I've seen needles get moved in these hearings, right? And you can do committee subs and you can make changes, depending on what it is. For me, everybody knows I serve for the greater good. So you can't come on and say, well, instead of that $5 million going to GBI, I want it to go to me. Can I do a committee sub for that? That ain't gonna happen. I'm just being very sarcastic with that, but I'm just saying, if there's something that you really see and feel passionately about, that it could be better, in a better direction for the greater good, then hey, this is your opportunity to come on as a constituent base and talk to us as elected officials directly. And then you never know, something might change. Now, if the committee hearing, please listen to me, is the best time for you to weigh in and play your role and play your part in the legislative process in the city of St. Louis. It's heard, it's read, then it's heard in committee, then it's second read, then we go through the perfection process and all of that. But the changes that can really be made instrumentally and intentionally happen in the hearing. So please pay attention if it's legislation that you're watching, when the hearing is set and when it's going to be, when the committee hearing is set, so that you can participate.
Yes, message.
December the 8th, 9 a.m.
December the 8th. So, and if people want to, again, testify, they have to, I know you can go on the City of St. Louis's website or whatever to find the information, to email the clerk, right?
Yep. And what I'll do, and I'll go back on here, you know how I am, I'll always go back and look in the comments and look on send links. We can do it like that so that we can make sure they have access to that link. And if they need help beyond that, you can have my cell phone number. I can call you. I can help you. We want to make sure that your voice, honestly, I just appreciate you taking the time out to participate. So I want to make sure you have every opportunity to do that. So if anything we can help you with to get on the hearing and speak, hopefully for, but I'm not gonna stop, put up an additional barrier for if it's against, because we want to make sure we meet in the middle with this, then that's what we'll do.
Thank you. So, and I know I just jumped onto the guaranteed basic income part of the bill because I know that piques a lot of folks' interest. But can you speak a little bit to some of the other parts of the bill? Because I know you were kind of mentioning that with some of the different departments and things. So can you touch a little bit on that too?
Yeah, one of the pieces I'm most passionate about outside of the guaranteed basic income in this legislation is the 13 million that will go to our federally qualified health centers, FQHCs. Being the daughter of a public health servant all of her life, I watched the difference when you put a public health lens on our disparities here in our communities and the difference it makes when you're trying to pull things forward. So being able to build capacity and empower these FQHCs the way they will be able to do with this. Now, this part is a grant match. So know that they've already been qualified, accepted, and been awarded this money, but this money is attached to if they are receive this support, for lack of a, that's the easy way to put it, from their local government as well. So we're matching it, and they will be on there. The health departments will be on there. That's Affinia Care, STL, Family Care Health, and BJK People's Health Centers, which I like to brag, I'm People's Health Center auto lady too. But their directors will be on there. Again, we want to make sure that people are on there to answer any questions that people may have to make them most comfortable with this. One of the other things, we talking about housing stabilization. When you talk about the Department of Human Services, the amazing work that Yusef Scoggin is doing in that department now with housing stabilization, senior services, emergency rental assistance program coordination. These type of things are going to help with our seniors, with our communities, and building them up. CDA, one of the programs that I fight for all the time and I talk with the new director about is building up capacity in the Healthy Home Repair Program, especially as it relates to some of the homes in the West End and the areas that I represent, and making sure that the capacity is built. But then now we have some other arms that we need to make sure that the response, not only the response is up to par, but the service is up to par as well. So we're just building it all around. Of course, anything we do with the Youth and Juvenile Division, Office of Violence Prevention, come on, that's public safety right there at its best. The sooner we get to these babies and change the trajectory of their lives and change their minds about making some of the choices that they make, will be for the better, for the entire good, for the greater good of the community. And I'll talk about, let me just go back. That makes me circle back to something with the guaranteed basic income. With the guaranteed basic income, when you think about a working family, right? Not just, it might be a working family, single mother, single father, just trying to provide for their family, and they might be this money short in this place or this end. What happens is, unfortunately, sometimes we have to depend on some of our youth to then provide for the family, right? And sometimes that's not going out to get a job. Sometimes it's making some bad choices to try to provide for the family. You never know what this money can go to when you think about it in those kind of directions and the change it can make in a family. Or let's talk about the mother, the single father, the single mother that just want to put their kids through an extracurricular program. Hey, my daughters, I'm a proud SLPS parent. My daughters were in a scholarship program through COCA for years through SLPS. No way they could have been. No way I could have afforded COCA without the program that they were in, without the scholarship program they were in through SLPS. Think about the extracurricular activities that this could help with, again, to deter them from other choices they might make to go wrong. So that's another piece that I wanted to focus on GBI. But some of the other things. Look, let's talk about Slate. We know.
We got to shout out Slate. Shout out to Alan AP. I see him in the comments. Love Slate. Shout out to Slate.
Yeah, that's year-round youth jobs. All of this, when you think about, and I'm not, no mistake. I'm not on these cliches. I'm not on these buzzwords and these cliches and all that stuff. But when you want to talk about public safety for real, this is more of a reimagining public safety platform than I think. Anytime you build up these programs like this and change people's lives and change their direction and change their options and their access, which is really big, then that's what that's about. And money don't make you you can tell you all that stuff. Money don't rule the world, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, no money, no mission. And this stuff cannot be done without funding, and funding is important. Funding is important. So that's those kind of things. I mean, you can take it all the way down to the micro. I'll just touch on that if anybody was wondering what that micro transit program was, since we're downtown in the beautiful Kazi Society podcast studio. Shout out to my sister Jamie Valentine Dobie. Okay, because I show out when I'm down here. But there's a micro transit program down here that was grant funded through my colleague Alderman James Page, and this funding in this bill will build that capacity to then take it north, take those micro trains. I don't know if you've seen them, they look like little electric kind of mini buses. Like these are free rides that they'll pick up. They picked up seniors to go to doctor's appointments, grocery store, school, different things that they do with these free rides, and this will build that up. That's what you see on the BPS microtransit. So it's all kind of different things that are in this bill. I like to call this bill I like to call this bill
I mean,
Yes.
honestly, Alderwoman, Alder lady. I mean, in addition to the guaranteed basic income, that situation. I mean, everything you mentioned is clutch, and it is very vital when we're talking about really investing in our communities and transforming our city and our communities. I mean, literally everything that you touched on. And again, that's just a high level overview of this bill. So, I mean, I I feel public safety. I mean, just the investment in our FQHCs, our federally qualified health centers, which they need all the love and all the support and all the coins, all the money, all the resources needed to support folks in the community. The Office of Violence Prevention, that's obvious. Our slate folks. I mean, all of these things that you mentioned, in addition to the guaranteed basic income program. I mean, I really feel like these things, they are vital, and
Absolutely.
very much so needed in our community. So again, I'm
Absolutely.
not, I'm just telling people the information. But I think all of these things are very valid. So this is my next question for you, Alder ladies. So do you think this is going to be challenging to get it across the finish line and to get it finally passed?
I have some colleagues that have already told me that this is going to be a hard sell for them, specifically because of, unfortunately, the guaranteed basic income piece. And what I'm just going to do is what I always do is meet them where I can, keep the door open on communication. If there's something that, that might make them come over to our side, then I'm going to work to do that because of course every legislator wants, I want everybody to love the legislation. We want unanimous ayes, across the board. But the reality is when you're doing legislation like this, that's not going to be the case every time. You just have to be willing to work again and meet in the middle. You know me, I don't like being around people that agree with me all the time anyway, because that's not where change happens. I like being around people that we think differently, that we have different perceptions, that we have different ideals, so that we can come together in the middle where the change can happen, and that everybody can be feel equally impacted in this work. So again, that's why I like to call it, and because people have pulled out that guaranteed basic income piece and want to make it like it's just about that, and it's not. But again, you saw how we could tie it into every other piece on here, behavioral health, anything we can tie that into, because again, the reality is that when you don't have the stress and the worry on you about finances, even down to $500 or $1,000, it can make all the difference in the world. And that comes from a parent, a stressed out parent that's worried about how they're gonna feed and clothe and house and keep lights on and everything. They sometimes end up unfortunately taking it out on their children, on their day-to-day, and just this kind of, it relieves pressure that can then help you with overall wellness.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, money is like the top stressor. I feel like in reality in our lives. So if you can relieve that, especially when you're talking about just working families, you know what I'm saying? People
Working
just kind of put food on the table, and relieving that pressure, it helps. It helps so much, and yeah, it does a world of a difference. That's for damn sure. Before we get into anything, because I have some questions not related to this bill, but
Okay.
I'm trying to see if anyone out there, we have a few folks that are watching this right now. If you all have any questions for the Alder lady, do not be shy.
Please don't be shy. questions, suggestions, any of that, because I'm taking notes. You see, I kind of laughed at myself when I had all this stuff laying out. I used to go to St. John with Lee Clayton Goodman was the pastor at the time. I was going to his Bible study. It was a noonday Bible study, and it would just be so amazing to me that when we would come be there at 12 o'clock, his books and everything would be laid out and ready. I'm like, what's he doing with his Bibles and all this stuff? Like, he's so ready for Bible study. I mean, the most amazing Bible study. I shout out to Lee Clayton Goodman, Reverend Lee Clayton Goodman, because he literally prayed me down to when I filed the first time through that noonday Bible study. But it really taught me now I like to be prepared and ready for whatever. I take notes. I'm not gonna gaslight you. I'm not gonna lie to you. If it's something I can't answer right then, I'm gonna get back to you on it. So this is the way that when I looked down at my stuff today, it reminded me of Reverend Goodman, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm really getting
you are, and that's what I appreciate about you, because you are an open book. Like, I mean, for me, like, I know, like, if I have a question about anything, you gonna keep it a buck with me about anything. And the fact that whenever I see you, you got a notebook, you got something. And to me, and I'm one of those people too, because I got a cheat sheet over here. But I'm one of those people too. Like, you always got to be prepared. You never know what type of information you might get, so you can relay that to other people. So I really appreciate and applaud you for that. So I don't see any questions. We got shy people out here, but I'm gonna get into this one question. We got some time. So this is not related to Board Bill 116.
Okay.
But it is related to ARPA. And you already know what I'm talking about. So the streets is talking. The streets is talking, Alderwoman, because the city of St. Louis got all this money. But what's going on? What is it being spent? Is it being expended? Like, what's happening with these ARPA dollars? And I guess I would just kind of like you to speak to just that process, because I think sometimes we as regular people, we're like, oh man, city getting $500 million. And that's what we think, and that's what we see. So I don't know if you could kind of speak to what ARPA funding is, and also like what is the process involved when it comes to spending these dollars, because it's not like a cut and dry situation. So I kind of would like for you to speak to that a little bit, if possible.
Actually, says you actually literally answered your own question. You said you're not going to talk about Board Bill 116, but Board Bill 116, along with some others, which I'm going to list out here, are exactly the process of spending the ARPA dollars. So yeah, we have these ARPA dollars, and the way the charter is set up in the city of St. Louis, Mayor Jones cannot just, hey, whip out my checkbook and say, I'm going to give $5 million to this and $10 million to that. It goes through a legislative process of where we carry the legislation at the Board of Aldermen, and then it goes back to ENA, estimate apportionment. I mean, shout out, I'm sorry, what did they call it today? I'll think of it, but they have a new name for it since we now have 3 women.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah, we have 3 women now for estimate apportionment, so I forgot what they called it. But anyway, so it goes back and forth from estimate and apportionment, and then we passed the legislation. Not only is Board Bill 116 direct the ARPA funds, but we also had, and let me make sure I get the right ones. I'll get through to them, but because I don't want to hold it. But that's to answer your question. No, nobody can just spend this money, right? It does have to go through the legislative process. And this is where, again, I love how we do the hearings and you hear how it'll be spent. We just had one that came through HUD's, Board Bill 66. Shout out, I was on that one too. That one was through our arts, went through the Regional Arts Commission for that one. Board Bill 65 was a ARPA bill. And I think Alderwoman Davis has one too. I have to find it. But just to answer your question in a, like you say, high overview, we have to do this legislation to get the money spent. So holding up legislation, being what's they say, not disruptive, but what's the word they say when people are trying to it'll come to me, when people are doing things just to hold up on stuff like this intentionally. um those type of things are why money won't get spent. But when we're doing this work, which is the work we're doing, we're doing the legislative process, we're passing the board bills, we're making the allocations. That is how the money absolutely gets spent here in the city of St. Louis. Now, this is separate from the Rams money. And I don't want to get off into that because we just got the award of that, right? And
Right.
so we're just getting started on that boat. But I do agree, with the timeline and everything for the ARPA funding and how it has to be spent. These are the steps, the necessary steps that we have to take to get it spent. And we had the board bill that came through that was going to do the North corridors. This is how you talk with your representation about how you support or don't support this kind of way of spending these dollars in your communities. And so you should follow them. And I promise I'll go back on the links and put the different bills, but there have been several ARPA funding bills that have come through, and you might not hear the buzzword ARPA, but or you might not hear exactly what it's for, but any bill that says it's appropriations or portions of funding from the American Rescue Plan Act for Youth, which was the one Board Bill 65 that Brandon did. These are the ways and the opportunities that we're having to spend those funds rather in the communities. And it's moving. It's absolutely moving now. It's moving.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I frequent a whole lot of different
Yes, thank you for doing that too.
trying to just let people understand it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just all on it's a team effort. So
Yes.
it's a lot of different moving parts that are involved that we may not be aware of or privy to as the general public. So I always try to tell people, like, it is a process, y'all. It's a process.
But you can watch it and you can follow it.
Yes.
I mean, so much love and respect. I say it every time I can publicly. Like, we are the legislators, and probably I'm not ashamed to say it. Probably you might pay more attention to some stuff than some of the legislators do at times. Like, as far as you follow the committees, you watch all of them in the city and the county. That is game changing for somebody that's really trying to follow stuff, because the distraction is where people get things done and pull wool over our eyes and move stuff in our communities that you never know about. And that was Board Bill 111, if anybody was following around the ARPA fund bill that Alderwoman Davis did. So just follow them like that. You can follow them. And if you have any specific questions, I can always sit down, look when I can send you the links from the hearings, from the committee hearings when we've had, so you go back on them. But I mean, paying closer attention, because this is what breaks my heart in our community is you'll get somebody or a group or a faction of people that will be misled, misinformed, go publicly in communities, in meetings, talking with the wrong information, loud, getting people all worked up. We know we are emotional people. They'll go back and forth and go back and forth on social media and everything. Guess what's happening while we doing all that? The money getting spent.
The
deals
work
getting done, people doing what they want to do, because they'll keep different factions distracted with the misinformation, and they'll be doing what they want to do. And you look up, and then a lot of times they'll go hard for something, and then you never hear about it again. And if you go back and check on that stuff, sometimes you will be surprised. Stuff never got done that they wanted to get done in the community, and they just have moved on because they know. I'm not ashamed to say stuff like this. I've been in meetings where they'll say, hey, they're gonna be upset, they're gonna do this and do that, but give it a week or two, they'll be. That's how much, that's the level of disregard they have for people that move like that in the community sometimes. And it's heartbreaking, because it's intentional distraction to keep your eyes off of, the easy way to say, keep your eyes off the prize of moving your community forward.
Yeah, and I always tell people, I know I be listening in, but them committee meetings, I'm telling y'all, these committee meetings, and even if you can go back and watch them even after the meeting on YouTube, y'all, because it's out there. It's out there. You don't have to, if you're not available at 10 o'clock in the morning or whoop-de-whoop, you can always go back to YouTube and just listen into it while you cleaning, while you're doing your grocery store shopping. whatever you're doing, you can easily listen to that and do other things while you're working or whatever, if you can do that. Because to me, that's the meat and the potatoes. That's where
Mhm.
you get all the information. And also, to your point, Alderwoman, that's where things change. That's
Mhm.
when you have sub bills,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
when the magic happens, in my
Yep.
opinion. And I
Mhm.
think that, and I've witnessed this time and time again during these committee meetings. You have your speakers or whomever, and as Councilwoman Webb, Shalana Webb, representing the 4th district, shout out
Yes.
to the county
Shout
council.
out. Hey, Shalonda.
He always says, the sausage, that's how the sausage gets made. And I feel
Mhm.
like in the committee meetings, that's when you see the
That's
discussion,
where it absolutely.
the back and forth. Oh, let's scratch this. Let's put this here instead. And also, again, you have people, the community, residents, whomever, you can speak your piece and it
Yes.
go on the record. So for people that say that, whatever, people want to do what they want to do anyway. Okay, fine.
Mhm.
Whatever. However, we do have power. We
Yes.
have power, but we have to stay engaged and
Mhm.
stay aware, so we can be able to influence those processes, to bring about the changes that we want to see. But we just gotta be aware.
Yeah.
Um,
Use it. The power in the numbers and using it, power and presence and use it, power in your voice and your opinions coming from all these different corners of the community. Absolutely use it. And the committee hearing is the place where you use it because once it gets out the committee, it's on the floor. And then it's no public testimony, it's no public
right.
speaking on that. And then sometimes, and you watch our meetings, we'll do perfection consent and just eye on a whole slate of bills. And you'll be like, what bill was that? Oh, the bill. Okay, the bill passed. They didn't talk. We know. No, because it passed out of committee unanimously. And we thought it was what everybody wanted.
Facts. So I have one more question
Mhm.
before we close out. And it's not related to ARPA or
Okay.
anything. But it is regarding addressing gun violence. So
Mhm.
I will say that there have been a couple of public safety committee meetings, and y'all have, because you're on the public safety
Yep.
committee.
Hmm.
But there have been some discussions made around how specifically can the city of St. Louis address gun violence and prevent um, these senseless acts, given the fact that we live in the state of Missouri. Missouri. Sorry, we live in the state of Missouri, and we have some. It's some challenges because there are some gun laws at the state level that kind of make it a little bit challenging. As
Not a little bit challenging. It makes it a challenge, period.
so, but I
The
will
biggest
say
challenge.
it's sad, and I'm learning a
Mhm.
lot more about how extensive these gun laws are, and just making it harder for officials here, for our police officers here,
Mhm.
to be able to take guns and confiscate guns, and you scared you're gonna get fined, and God knows what else, if you do that. So I will say I was very I felt a little hopeful
Mhm.
because I listened to some of the meetings. Bless your heart, Alderwoman, and bless all the other alder people out there. But y'all be going on and on sometimes in these meetings, and I'm like, okay, y'all, bless y'all's hearts, because I done checked out. But I feel like these discussions, it seems like they've been somewhat I feel like they've been a bit productive, as far as just figuring out, okay, we know this is a problem,
Mhm.
this is kind of within our authority, right? So how
Mhm.
can we make this work to protect our residents? So I
Mhm.
kind of want to get your thoughts and insight on, like, how do you feel that these conversations are going, and most importantly, because I'm always trying to get people to feel like, again, we got some power, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
sometimes it can feel like we just out here.
Mhm.
So how do you feel these conversations are going? And also, as residents, what
Mhm.
are ways that we can support our city elected officials
Mhm.
in addressing such an important issue?
Yeah, well, absolutely. The best way to support the elected officials in the city as a whole and ourselves is through communication and action. And every discussion is important, but just as many, you can't be distracted. And I use that word a lot by the discussions because if you listen to some of our public safety meetings for 15, 20 minutes, you might think that St. Louis is the worst place in the world. It absolutely is not. St. Louis City is an amazing place to work, to live, to grow your family, to build, to put your feet in the ground. And I hear it daily. I hear it all the time. And when the communication is open, people know about their resources. People use their power and are empowered by their legislators, their elected officials, their community activists, their community leaders. That builds the pride in their communities that makes them want to even do more and act better. I have to push back on St. Louis being bad, being the worst place, the narrative that it causes and it creates when you just listen to that. When again, these are a lot, and then make sure you're listening to either facts or somebody's perception or somebody's feelings or their emotions. There's a difference in that. Data, facts are different from somebody's lived experience, which is just as important. But you have to make sure you boil it down and see what direction you can take it in to use it, bring it together and work collectively for our communities. Police or reactive. Police are reactive. I can't say that. I can't stress that enough. So the narrative that you can blame police for a level of crime in the community, there's a factor that's a factor, but you can't blame that because they are reactive. They come after that. They come after it, especially with the low capacity and the low hiring, that the hiring issue that we have right now. They definitely come after. Now, hey, if we build up the capacity, which some people are totally against that, and I respect that. But some people on the other side are totally agree with building up the capacity so that community, we can go back to the community policing that some of us grew up with. And their feeling is that the more visibility we have with our officers and our public safety people in our communities, that it'll make a difference. But it also, again, a factor, not the one answer to everything, is making sure we come back and build resources like this in the community to make people change their mind, to build wellness, pride, and make sure they want to do better for their communities. This builds up programs that'll go and talk to the young brothers and the young sisters in the street. It broke my heart to see that sister running down the street with an AR-15. Some things at my age, I'm 46 years old, you just didn't see, right? Or if it existed, you might have heard about it, but you didn't see it. And so things like this, we just go in different directions. It seems like what might seem like it's out of control. I push back like, no, it's not out of control. We still have the control. We just have to make sure we identify it and use it and pull back into our communities what we need. And it's different in different neighborhoods. And that's not a division thing. That's a reality thing. It shouldn't be used as the visit to say we got to put this in this community and not put this in this community, because it's an and thing. I'm big on that now. It's not an or thing, it's an and thing. We have to do all of this, but at the same time, making sure I identify and use it right and putting the right resources in, and that makes all the difference in the world. I see blocks and pockets in our community that you would never feel the same way you felt when you go out there about the city of St. Louis. And that's the energy that I take and use every day to want to make it better and want to do my part, whatever my part is, or whatever role God has for me to play my role in making it better for the entire community, letting it spill over. So I know what you're saying about you can get very disheartened by those public hearings, public safety committee hearings, and other hearings for that matter. But the way people talk to not only each other, but they talk to the community and the community talks back or whatever. But communication is good. Having a conversation is good, but take with it what you can to make the difference and make the better in your community. You cannot legislate on social media. You cannot legislate on Twitter. Don't get emotional about what somebody's putting on there. Take that emotion, put it into some resources, some real policy and resources that can make a change, and then we move together.
You can't legislate over Twitter. Remember that, y'all. You should trademark that. All the ladies, you should trademark that. Dead ass. You really should. You should trademark that.
Look, everybody exited Twitter now, right? So
but that's real. So before, because we're gonna wrap up. I mean, this conversation again, thank you again for providing us with the information, the overview of Board Bill 116, addressing some of the other things going on as far as ARPA coins in the city of St. Louis, and just really making sure that we stay aware and we are engaged and we recognize our power. Knowledge is power. And making sure that we don't get distracted.
That's it.
That D word, y'all, distracted. We don't get distracted in the midst of the foolery. Because we sitting up here kiki and ha-ha over this that ain't even true.
Right.
And the action is happening over here.
Yep.
Money's being spent and everything's happening. So before we kind of officially close out or whatever, did you have any like last, words, takeaways, anything like that for the people before we close out?
I just want to, first of all, I want to thank you again for this opportunity. I'm gonna be bragging about I was the first now. You know how I am about that. So I definitely want to just thank you again for this opportunity and this platform, this amazing platform. I believe, and then I ain't, I'm not shy about saying it. I believed in you when I first met you, seeing the work you've done, and now you haven't done anything more but grow it, and you continue to grow it. And you and Shavannah, and hope she feels better. And be back next time, because look, this has got to be an ongoing conversation. What I will be looking for, I love I think this time now more than ever is when we have to think out the box and getting this message and connecting with the people in the constituency to build back trust, build back you want to be engaged in the political process in which your elected officials in your community. So the platform and the different events and things that you all set up are unmatched, right? So I'm just looking forward to you all's debates, because I know they're going to be so dope. All the different kind of things you all are going to be doing as we gear up for this 14. Again, filing open today. I encourage you to make sure you know what your new ward is in the city of St. Louis, and then follow and track and see who's filed and who's running to represent you. Follow and track them, not just on their social media platform, but in different committee hearings in different settings across the areas. These are broader areas. So you'll know, making sure nobody changes it, that they're being their authentic self. So you'll see how they're going to continue to serve you after campaign time. People said I started too early for my campaign, and no such thing. How can you start early? There's a catch-22. It's like, okay, you're mad if somebody say, I only hear from you at election time, and then you mad because you start when it's not election time trying to connect with the community. So, you just got to continue to do what you're doing and make sure that you're getting the most out of this is reciprocal, right? You have to make sure that you are getting what you can get from your elected official, and they're giving what they're supposed to give back so that we can come together. I guess it was called She and They. That's what it was called. They named it today because it's Comptroller Green, Mayor Jones, and President Green. They instead of E and A, they were calling it She and They. I thought that was so cute. I thought that was cute. So yeah, I just thought about that. But yeah, anytime, I'll go back on your link as well. I don't know if you can go back and comment on YouTube, but when we share, okay, we can share. I'm getting the listen. I have to tell you, I'm getting the how we do this, all of this podcasting extraordinaire. Jamie Valentine dope. I could not have done any of this without her through the pandemic down here at Cosby Society, and she got big things coming. So I would make sure you tap in with Cosby Society too and follow her and see what she's doing. And for any of your podcasting or getting your word out or your information out in the community needs, follow her. But that's what I would say. Just tap in. This is going to go by so fast. That's these races here, local races, is the filing close. You got to think about it. Filing closes on January 6th. We get ready to go into a holiday season. I don't know much of anybody that's going to be really doing, any big campaigning. So filing closes January 6th. You got what? January and February, March. Right. It's over in March. So you have to get out there, be on the ground, and make sure you're connecting how you can with your people, and following platforms like you when you can't make it to stuff and you can't go and hear people speak, and everything is the best way, because you show up.
I try.
Show up.
I try. I be trying.
Now you doing.
I'm trying, but I will say also, yes, please, we will be covering. I'm gonna call it the big dance. So real quick, Alderwoman, you probably don't know this about me. I am a retired hooper. I play basketball.
No, I didn't know that.
I know it seems like ages ago. shout out to Captain Clay Farmer because he's trying to get me on the court again.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see, to be determined. But I come from a team sports background, so I use a lot of sports analogies. So, and we talked about this because you're like, okay, these elections coming up, what are you gonna call it? Like, what are you gonna refer to it as? It is going to be called the Big Dance. So for my people out there, the NCAA tournament, March Madness is everything. So this is our March Madness, baby.
This is our March Madness.
Yes, this is our March Madness. So we will be covering it. Y'all, please stay tuned. I got a lot of stuff cooking up here. I'm always plotting again to make sure that folks have the information, they can be engaged and stay aware and be informed when we go to the polls in March and in April.
Yes, that's big. Make sure you know, please, every election matters. And then the way our city is set up now in our charter, we have to vote in both elections. You have to vote in the first one like the second one, and the second one like the first one. So stay engaged, and make sure that, especially if you have a candidate that you feel most passionately about, please know that the second election is just as important as that first election.
Yes.
With the way we have our voting system now here in the city of St. Louis. So please stay engaged to the end.
Yes, you got to show up to both elections.
Yes.
So before we close, I have one more announcement for the people kicking it for a cause. So we've been doing this thing every month in person for the past several months, and our final kicking it for a cause for the year will be on Wednesday. Doors open at 6 p.m. and we are going to be at the Contemporary Art Museum. Shout out to them for allowing us to utilize that space. And it's going to be a huge game night because usually we talk about a topic and then we play a game. So we like bump that because, it's the holidays and people been around their family. I mean, love family. I love my family. Love y'all. But sometimes it can be a little stressful. It can be a little real. So we really want people to have a good time. We ain't gonna have no topic, but we want people to come. We're gonna have some grub there. Also, the gallery, it will be open.
Oh, wow.
Hour. So if people want to go and walk around, because they got some interesting stuff.
Yes.
If people want to check it out from 6 to 7, whatever, they can. And then we're gonna play. We're just gonna have a big old game night. So please come through again. The last kicking it for a cause of the year, Wednesday, 6 p.m. at the Contemporary Art Museum, which is on Washington Avenue.
Beautiful place.
Yes, please come out. Enjoy, network, key, have a good time, and let's build. Because I think something that the Alderwoman did mention, just that, that sense of community and togetherness. We need to do more of that. So this is our attempt. Shout out to Vanna and also the homie. The original homie. I mean, I've known Alan for over 30 years. So shout out to Alan, aka Mr. AP himself. So we will be rocking and rolling. That'll be the last time this evening. I also want to shout out before I shake Ryan, Miss Ryan Nico. So Alderwoman Ryan was the voice actress for Straight Facts.
Oh my goodness.
Tuning in all the way from Detroit, baby. Shout out to Ryan. Thank you for joining us and some of your interesting comments, which I can't really post some of these comments. But
am I gonna be able to go back and see him?
Okay. We can't shout you out 46 looking good. So yeah, shout out to y'all. Telling you, good luck, don't crack. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that is all that we have for y'all this evening. We will be back here the same time, the same place next week, talking about who knows what. It just depends on what pops this upcoming week. So y'all, please stay safe out there. Be well.
Yes.
I'll see you next week. Peace.